Rosalind Wiseman is with us, the author of Queen Bees and Wannabes, which exploded her onto the scene. Now, Mastermind and Wingmen. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me back.
I'm so excited that you have the boy book out now. We've talked about the girl books. We've talked about the parent books.
I had to come back and do boys.
You finally got down to the boys. And I think you went into it. You write this in the book that everybody said, oh, the boys are so easy. Boys are this or that. And you said right away in the book, I'd rather take a daughter walking in, slamming the door, letting you know exactly what she feels than a boy just, and then walking into his room and you don't hear from him for 4 hours.
Or he looks at you and he's like, I'm not telling you. He's like, I'm just never going to tell you. Or he just looks at you, right? And you got nothing. You got nothing except that you have this feeling that maybe something is running off the rails, but you don't know how to reach him. That's really frustrating. But, you know, a lot of parents say, oh, boys are so easy. They're so easy compared to girls. And, you know, they fight and then it's over. And I know from working with kids that that's not the case, is that boys really do have very complex friendships and they have very strong feelings about their relationships with their parents and with coaches and what they see and what they don't like, but they don't think they can change a lot of the things they don't like around them. And it's important that boys get to be able to have the friendships that they want, to be able to advocate for themselves, to be able to admit when they're really scared and when they don't know what to do, when they're feeling overwhelmed. I mean, we see the consequences of this every single day. Is it just the drama difference? Girls are more drama, boys are more quiet, but the complexities are still the same? I think the boys are actually more complex because the signs are really difficult to see. And, you know, as you said about the girl running up or talking to you, you know, boys, for a lot of reasons, are just so good at shutting down so that we get shut out. And so you just get a sense of being able to talk to girls in a way that you don't for boys. But the other thing that I learned going through the process of writing the book with boys is how much adults are contributing to boys' silence. And that really shocked me, is that, you know, we say we want boys to come forward. We say it's okay for you to talk about your feelings. But we don't actually do it a lot in practice. We often are saying to them things that are very contrary to that, but we're not either admitting it to ourselves or acknowledging when it's happening to the boys with other people, and the boys aren't talking to us about it. So that's just, you know, we tell them we want to talk about things, but then they say something's going on. Oh, you'll get over it. Oh, it'll be fine. Oh, shake it off. Oh, we all go through that. We Absolutely. Just blow off their problems. Do we not do that with girls? I don't know, not at all. I think we have a huge language to talk to girls about their lives, and we think about, oh my gosh, you know, like I'm having a daughter. I know that she's coming into this world that gives some really, really crazy messages to her about what she's supposed to be like, or she's supposed to be super sexy, and, you know, it's not okay to be smart, so I'm going to advocate. I'm going to teach her to advocate. We don't do this for boys at all. In fact, what we do when kids have, you know, when parents have young kids is we think and we say, well, you know, my kid likes to play with trucks. You know, he likes to blow things up. He likes, you know, that's what he likes to do. He likes to roughhouse. And then we make this really crazy judgment, which is because he likes to do that means that he doesn't have deep feelings, or he wouldn't feel lonely, or he wouldn't feel that friends are important. It's like, well, boys can play with trucks and still feel really bad when a friend doesn't want to be with them. They can still feel really bad even if they like to light things on fire, that their parents aren't getting along. I mean, it's just amazing to me, the judgments that we make based on the surface of boys' behavior. Do you think it's really that we see them playing with trucks, or is it just this age-old thing where men are supposed to be tougher, men are supposed to be this and that, men don't share their feelings? I think it's reinforced. So we have this thing in our heads about men being tougher, and then we see them play with trucks, and then we make this assessment that they don't care about anything. And then it's absolutely reinforced. And as the boys get older, there's a lot of absolutely not. Let me give you an example that really struck me recently. One of the boys that helped us with the book, I had these 200 boys who helped me for 2 years with the book. And recently, he's 18 years old, and he had just broken up with a girlfriend, and it was last spring. He had just broken up with her, and he realized 2 days later that it was a huge mistake. He's a football player. He'd been a soccer player, handsome kid, and he, you know, wanted to talk to his boys, but he just realized he couldn't, right? Because they talk about hooking up. They don't talk about, like, horrible, horrible breakup situations. So he's miserable. So he calls a really good, you know, friend of his that's a girl to go and have dinner with him so he can talk about how miserable he is. As he's walking out the door, his mother says to him, I can't believe you're trying to get with somebody so fast. And he's like, Mom. And he didn't even say anything. He just looked at her and was like, I'm not going to say anything to you because you are just not even, you just don't even understand me. And he is actually trying to reach out and is reaching out to a woman for help, to get advice. And his mother is the person who is saying to him, oh, you're just another guy who wants sex.
All right. So 2 questions on that. And I love that you're talking to all these boys about this because nobody else that I know of does that. I mean,
It's
you're
hard.
really
It was hard at first. It was hard.
You said that, and there's different ways that they communicate, and you're really
Yes.
learning their languages and how you can get them to talk.
Yeah.
But so when you say something like that, so the mom said this. Well, now you're hearing this from an 18-year-old boy who was very emotional when this happened.
True.
So how much do you weigh into, well, was your mom really being that mean about it? Or have you given your mom some reason over the years to think this is what you're doing? I mean, how much do you have to think about that?
Sure. That's a great question. I mean, when I was doing this with the boys, one of the things I asked them was, what are the ways in which parents are communicating to you that don't work for you? And sussing out the difference between what, the parents doing, like, and what's the perceived thing that they're doing. I mean, I know as a mother of 2 boys that I can do, like, I feel like I can do nothing and they completely freak out on me, right? So, like, with my older child, I can sigh, like, really quietly. I can sigh or I can move my eyebrow and he flips out. Like, he says, like, you are screaming at me, you are freaking out at me. And here's the thing, I think, as an answer to your question. I am sighing. I am raising my eyebrow. He does know me really well. He does know that when I'm raising my eyebrow that I'm like, what are you talking about? Right? Like, I'm immediately starting.
But you're not screaming at him.
But I'm not screaming at him.
The way they're reading you is a little...
But he's reading me correctly. He's just, the way he's, so it's that perception thing versus reality. But at the same time, what I think is important is you have to recognize on its face, if this is what he's saying,
then that's the perception.
Then that's the truth. So if he's saying you're freaking out on me, I do say, okay, so, like, what am I saying to you that describes, like, what am I saying to you that looks like I'm freaking out on you? Because I actually want to know. But I really do. We got to own it that our kids know us really well. And, when we sigh, they know.
See, that's pretty impressive because you say, well, what am I doing? Well, the rest of us will go, do you want to see freaking out? You will see freaking out.
I've said that too.
Oh, have you? Okay, good.
No, I've said, you don't even realize how calm I'm being right now. You don't even realize what I'm thinking right now, right? I've absolutely said things like that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for being here with the rest of us.
Yes.
So what was the most interesting thing you found out? I mean, what really surprised you? Because I think you went into this not knowing exactly how deep you would get into this.
Yeah. I mean, I knew that boys were complex. I knew that boys were suffering. I knew that they were suffering in silence. I knew that because I was getting a lot of feedback from boys about that. I also knew that I felt that the advice I was giving them was not as good as what I felt they deserved. I needed to take a step back and to really stop and to ask and to really, really focus on the boys and say, what do I need to know? What was surprising to me is how aware they are of the social dynamics that are going on around them. That surprised me. It surprised me how little, frankly, and I would ask you this question or think, what you think about it. It surprised me how often boys said that even well-meaning dads were not talking to them about the complexities of relationships or acknowledging that friendships are complicated. It really surprised me that when I would talk to dads, this very much was borne out by what dads would say. It was like they had forgotten what it was like to be a 7th grade boy or a 9th grade boy or a 5th grade boy. And they had bought into the stereotypes of boys just being sort of stupid or simple, sex-driven, not really caring, not being able to have their hearts broken. I was really surprised by that. And it was actually very upsetting to me to hear dads say things like, all boys care about is eating nachos, like drinking beer and chasing women. I'm like, what are you talking about? Do you not remember what it was like to be a boy? So I was surprised by that. And so we have a lot of really amazing men who are not having good conversations with their sons the boys want to have conversations with their dads about this kind of stuff. And then I was also, I have to tell you, a little bit shocked about there always seemed to be one adult male in the boys group that was just terrible, that would say horrible things to the boys about women, about relationships. And in the absence of very positive conversations with other men, it was like that was what the boys were hearing. Now they can blow it off. They can think it's ridiculous.
Right.
But that was hard to hear.
But that's generally the cooler dad, I think, too. I mean, I'm trying to think now of my own group.
Looks like it.
And it's a divorced dad.
That got a lot of that. You're right.
And then and I think there's inherent with that is you want to be a little bit more of a friend to your kids, even though the one I know, very tough on his son, but also you know, and the way they imitate other kids and do things. And I think it goes into the cool dad stuff you talk about in here.
It totally, yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of that. But even I would like to think that, well, I talk to my son and I do these things. But even within that, and I remember what it was like, you know, we've talked about certain situations that he's gone through. And it's funny because you talk about, don't just give him, oh, we all go through that. But and at some points you think we should relate things, and some points we shouldn't just, oh, well, I went through that too.
Right.
But even in saying that, yeah, we've talked about things and I've tried to have conversations, I know that there's times where I'm just like, oh, it's fine. And, you know, it's a very tough balance to figure out when you should really talk and when somebody needs to toughen up. Because at some points in life, you yourself and your kids, everybody at some point needs to toughen up. And there's going to be struggles and you're going to go through that. And so it is very difficult.
It's a very hard line. But I think what we do, if we want our boys can be tough and learn to be competent, and at the same time acknowledge the pain that they're going through. So it's, you know, because it takes an amount of stamina, an amount of strength to be able to actually allow yourself to feel very painful feelings and then be able to get up and keep going. I want boys to be competent. I want them to be proud and confident of who they are as boys and as young men and as men. That's what this is about. But I think what's really important is to be able to say, for dads to be able to say, you know, you're watching a TV show, whatever you're doing, you know, you look for the opportunity where you're saying things like, wow, you know, my friends I had amazing friends. I was super tight with them. There was this one time that, you know, this friend like hooked up with a girl that I totally was so in love with, and he knew it. And I couldn't say anything to him about it. And, you know, this whole thing about like bro code and bros before hoes and stuff like that. Yeah, that didn't work that well in that situation, which is an amazing thing, right? Because one of the things, and that actually is another thing I found out about this whole this bro code stuff. In high school, boys are betraying each other constantly by hooking up with the girls that they know one of their friends really likes. And they're banking on the silence of the boy to get away with it.
The book is called Masterminds and Wingmen. Rosalind Wiseman, thank you. There's so much more in the book. We have scratched barely the surface. Tons more. Make sure you pick it up. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.